Mini scenes. Today we'll be attempting to put a large waterslide transfer, here it is, isn't it beautiful, onto a very small tray. Oh, and say hello to my fishy friends. Right, let's get on with crafting. Here we go then. We have a small tray. Now, let me introduce you to this tray. It has little legs like this. Not necessarily for standing it up on or for popping down over the arms of your chair. This was a very cheap one. I think it was from B&M. I'll check that and put you a link down below. Now, for those of you who haven't subscribed yet, please do. Subscribe button is down here, and if you hit that and the little bell, then you will be kept up to date on any new videos that I make. Thank you very much to those who already have. Now, the other things I'll introduce you to for today are a measuring jug. This is the side I'll be using to measure, and some resin. What we're going to do is we're going to use that beautiful Waterslide transfer, which I'll show you again in a moment, and we're going to coat over the top of it and underneath it with resin. I'm using this brand simply because it comes in these nice handy little bottles no matter how much you order. It's from Union Jack Arts. Again, I'll put the link below for you. And I just find it nice and easy to use. I do use many other brands as well. This I just find handy for smaller projects. So again, I'll put the link below. The other thing I'll be using today is my blowtorch, which again, link below for where to get these from. It's just one of those ones that chefs use. As you can see from the little adjuster here, I have it turned down pretty low because I don't want to basically burn the house down. So for the initial layer, that is all we're going to be using. I'm going to lay down a base of the resin, and then we'll try to lift the Waterslide transfer once that resin is dry onto it. When that's dry, we'll put a seal of more resin over the top. This is our transfer. It came on a sheet with some smaller ones too, and it was inspired by Diane. I'll put her link below. I buy them from her via eBay, and her service is always amazing. You can choose whether to have Waterslide or regular stickers if you want to perhaps put them on a wall or something like that. But this one, I asked her if she would do it as a Waterslide for me, and as you can see, I've trimmed it down and it just fits in that tray and looks rather dramatic. So we'll come to that. Well, it'll be tomorrow because I've got to wait for this resin to dry. So I'll put the tray to one side and we're going to mix up our resin. I have got a little stirry thing that I'm going to try. This is actually for spreading icing on cakes and things, I think. Just cleaning it up. I've obviously used it before, just not for stirring things up. I'm just going to see if this causes less bubbles than my wooden sticks, really. I've tried cocktail stirrers as well, you know, the plastic ones. They're pretty good. There we go. That looks clean enough. Thing with silicone stuff is you can clean it up and use it again afterwards. So let's see how this goes. Again, this was an eBay buy, just from a cook shop of some sort on eBay. Very cheap. Right, resin and hardener. So I'm going to be putting in, this is going to take a lot more resin than you'd think. I know this from experience when I did one with bees on. I'll show you that when I do the last video, when this one's finished as well. Here we go. So I'm actually making up 100 millilitres, so 50 of each. This is a 2-part resin, which makes it really easy to use. I'm also in a fairly warm room. It's warm in our kitchen today, despite being the middle of October. So this should set up quite quickly. I say quite quickly, it takes 24 hours to do properly. Now you can see when you're mixing resin, I tend to whisk it like I'm whisking an egg, which is crazy really, I shouldn't. The real trick is to stir very slowly. Make sure you get into the corners This is handy because being square at the end, it gets right into the corners. I am just discovering. I've used it for all sorts of things before, just not for stirring. Now you can see that at the moment this resin is a bit milky, but it is going clearer and clearer. There are a few bubbles, don't panic. You can deal with those later. If your room is cooler, this will seem thicker and it will take longer for these bubbles to work their way out. If your room's warmer, the whole thing cures quicker, this stays runnier and it doesn't take quite so long. So ideally you want to be stirring this for a good couple of minutes. I'm cutting this a little bit short simply for sake of the video, so I'm stirring it a bit too quick. But as you can see, it is going clear, so I'm fairly confident that this is already mixed. Though, because of being impatient and stirring too quick, yes, I've got bubbles. Normally I would do this off screen, but I wanted to show you how you could actually see whether it's mixed or not. Can you see now? That's really nice and clear. Other than just a few bubbles. Actually, not many considering how I've been stirring it. Gonna let that sit for a minute and degas a little bit. That means let the bubbles pop, I believe. And we're going to get our little tray. Now, these trays do seem to be sealed pretty well around the corners. You see all this? Even though there's a groove here, I think that's a solid piece. Looks like it on the back. It's a solid piece that they've just cut some grooves into, and they don't actually appear to go quite to the end at this end. So it shouldn't leak. That's the theory. And also the sides go down below the wood. It sits inside. It shouldn't leak. The last one I did didn't, but do have it on a good solid rubber mat and somewhere where you know it isn't going to matter too much if it does leak. So what we do now then, this is now sat for a minute, one last quick little stir, and basically pour it in. If you did think your tray was going to leak, by the way, just go around the edges with something that'll set clear. PVA would probably do the job. Just run your finger around all the corners with some PVA to make sure. Right, as you can see, we've still got some bubbles here, but what I'm going to do is spread it. Now, it doesn't matter if it goes up the sides a little bit, because that is going to disappear below the surface of the next layer anyway. You're going to end up with a layer, two layers rather, and it's probably going to go up to about, I don't know, 3 or 4 millimeters deep. So this is a resin that's good for shallow pours as well. It's a thicker one. The less viscous ones, the more watery, I suppose you'd call it, are better for deep pours. If you try to use this one for a deep pour, up to a point I can get away with it. I've discovered I can go up to a couple of centimetres without it flash curing too much, but it's not ideal. The better approach really is to get a more viscous one that'll take longer to cure if you're going to do anything deeper than just, you know, a few millimetres or so. Most of my stuff's quite thin. I did do a table recently and ended up doing lots of thin layers, but I was trying to 3D it with some 3D stickers, so that actually was sensible at the time. Right, so I think we've got into all the corners. Most of the resin has dripped. I'm quite liking this as a stirrer. Hey, because it bends as you're doing this as well. Yeah, I think most of the resin has dripped out of my pot. I am going to stand the pot upside down on a cleaning wipe, simply because if the worst of this dribbles out, no, actually I'll stand it on my mat. If the worst of it dribbles out, then I'll be able to reuse the pot without being too messy. I could try and wipe it out, but I've found that you just end up in a right sticky mess trying to do that. So if I leave it upside down on this silicone mat, it should drain the worst out, and then I'll be able to use it for the next coat too. You can use all sorts of things to mix it in. It's just this is quite convenient for measuring at the same time. So I'm going to plonk that upside down on my mat. This is a silicone mat from Let Resin. Wasn't, again, it's another thing that just wasn't expensive. Protects my worktop, and the best of it is that any resin spills just peel off once it's dry. So you end up with lots of little bits like this, look. So really handy from that point of view. I'm just going to flash my torch over it. Now I haven't got a mould to worry about wrecking here, but obviously I don't want to scorch the wood. So I'm just going to do that a little bit. And I will come back and do, oh, there's a bit I missed. And I will come back and do it again in about half an hour. It's just trying to make sure we've got a nice glassy layer rather than being full of bubbles. And I will turn it up slightly as I'm not worrying about wrecking a mould. Looks a bit fierce, doesn't it? But that should take all of the bubbles out. Here we go, let's pop him down over there. So now it's a waiting game. Maybe in about 5 or 6 hours this will be dried and tacky enough for me to put the water slide on. I don't think I'm going to risk it. I think I will do it first thing in the morning when it's dried properly. And then it can spend a couple of hours. We'll blot it with some tissue. We'll spend a couple of hours letting that really, the water slide transfer really dry on there, and then put the final coat of resin on. And we should end up with a rather nice tray. So there we go. I shall see you in the morning. Okay, so this is going to be interesting. We've got the tray has hardened. There's the tray. The resin's all nice and hard and shiny, as you can see. This is the biggest water slide transfer I've ever tried to use. So we'll see how we go. Beautiful, isn't it? Now I've got a big old dinner plate here. And basically it is just like I used to get with Airfix kit when I was a kid. So, ooh, there we go. The paper's wetting up. Can't remember how long these take to lift off, but I don't think it takes very long. So I'm just going to keep pushing it down under the water for a minute. And at some point it should start to move on the paper. Yeah, it's starting to go. Once it goes, I'm going to tip the water. Yeah, we're off. I'm going to tip the water away so we don't end up with a mess. So here we go, water going. And I'm going to put it to the side here. And here's my tray. Now, I use this particular plate because I should be able to just slide straight across. It doesn't have any proper edges to it. And I'm going to lie it about there. Now I should be able to just pull the paper out. Oh, it's creasing. Just going to hold the edge and slide the paper out. Oops, it's escaping. Oh. Now, I should have put water, I think. It's basically a very fine film. Let's put some water on resin. Yes, maybe that's what I'll do next time. I'll actually do the water part straight on the tray. Here we are. That's all pulling out now. Yeah, I probably could have soaked it actually in and on the tray to start with. Right, there we go. We learn something every day. So, got to get all that water out now. Kitchen roll seems to be the way to do this. I'm going to get the worst out like this, then we'll dab the oh so delicate transfer into place. Yeah, next time I may as well just soak it straight in the tray. Oh well. More kitchen roll. So, what I'm going to do now is try to smooth some of the water out from underneath it so we lose the creases. Oh, that's working. You see there's a few creases in it still, but we're getting there. See, that's the beauty of putting it onto the resin rather than straight onto the wood. It gives you a lot more manoeuvrability. So, there we are. I am now going to leave it overnight. Probably doesn't need that long, but as it's quite late now, I shall be leaving it overnight to really set onto there. And we'll come back to this in the morning. And assuming it's settled properly and it's sort of stuck itself down a bit, we'll stick the resin on top. So, see you in the morning. Well, it is the following morning now, and yeah, this has settled really nicely. I did come back and dab it another couple of times, but to be honest, it sorted itself out. Really, yeah, one thing I did learn, I could have cut more of the clear away, but I don't know whether that made it more handleable. Don't know. Anyway, I've been mixing some more resin up. My usual stuff, 50-50 epoxy again, and I mixed up in total 100 millilitres, because that's what I did for the bottom layer, and it seemed to be more than enough. Just going to pour it on, and then we leave it. Try to be patient. Really does need a good 24 hours to harden, and I don't think I'll risk putting like a hot cup of tea or anything on it for a few days at least. I don't know how heat resistant this resin is, but then again, it's an armchair tray. It goes over the arm of your sofa. Can't imagine anybody wanting to risk putting a cup of tea on it because it'd be so easy to knock off. But you know, popping your glasses on, the book that you're reading, the watch you've just taken off, that sort of thing. And more for decorative purposes as much as anything. It'll become a trinket tray on the side of our house, I think. Right, there we go. I don't think I'm going to get much more out of this pot now. There's a little dribble built up in the bottom. I've got various other projects going on, so
Massive spider.
Here we go then. Our finished project. Now, I am going to leave it a few days before I put anything on it. Make sure it's 100% cured. But I think you'll agree that's looking pretty darn splendid for something that cost me a £5 from B&M. I have checked, that's where it was from. So yeah, well pleased with that. Just wanted to show you one that I'd made previously. I made this a couple of months ago with a much smaller transfer. Love this one. She does a lot of bee ones. It's rather gorgeous, isn't it? This one I actually put a little bit of glitter in the resin. I don't know if you can see a bit of sparkle in there. It's very, very subtle, but that's why there's a slight sort of golden tone to the resin. It's not quite as clear as the other one, but that was intentional to give it like a slightly honey look. So there we are. I have also found with this one excuse the clanging noises. I've just disturbed my camera. There we are. 1 hot cup of tea. It seems to be heat resistant. Time will tell. I've only used it for things like that occasionally. I've tended to use it as a trinket tray on the whole lately. But I have found myself accidentally putting my cup of tea on it a couple of times, and so far no harm done. So there we are. I shall go and have my cup of tea. All of the links for the products that I've used are in the descriptions below as usual. If you haven't already subscribed, please do, and then you'll be kept up to date with any more of my crafting projects coming up. Also, if you could click the like button for me, that would be awesome. And please do leave comments and questions below. I shall keep an eye open for questions so that I can answer any that come along. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you for the next project.